Well, hello guys. Welcome back to another episode of Everyday EDC. Today we're doing a truck dump. I'm going to talk a little bit about the King of the Hill series that I have coming up. So let's just jump right into it. I'm not trying to drag this one out like I did yesterday. My first, and I'm going to call this a fifth pocket knife, but it's really just a want to carry, so I made it work. It's not really a fifth pocket knife. Is my Benchmade bugout with 20 CV and the Flightanium scales. Like I said, I'm going to be getting some parts for this and whatnot, trying to change the color up, kind of make it my own type of thing. But my point here with this is it leads into my next. The esprit. Speaking of King of the Hill, we have our esprit today. And carrying it reminds me why I dubbed this the king, and it's everybody else's job to dethrone this, because this is just so good. Oh my gosh. We all have preferences, right? So there's a preference to carry, say if you're a bug out guy, you might prefer to carry the bug out over the esprit. But does that make it a preference, or is that because it's better for you? Now, we'll probably argue that it's better for you, it's better, whatever. But the reality is it's a preference, right? All of these things that we choose to carry are preferences. And realistically, like I said before, the only knife you need is really like a Rat Model 2, and you're good to go on your EDC journey. But this kind of encompasses enthusiasts, collectors, and all the above with this design, which is why this design really spoke to it. It's really cool to see other reviewers that are much larger than I, drool over this thing, because that's what I did. And so you kind of know you're in the same path, you're in the same boat, and you feel the same way about a lot of these. So with my King of the Hill series, I'm struggling. While this is the king, right, I want to try and justify other, because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I have the Sakshi or whatever. Really cool knife. Really, really cool. But is it worthy to go against here? Well, it's like $60 less or $50 less. And, there's different things about it. It's more generic than this is, even though this is kind of a basic knife. This is a basic Ray Laconico knife, and he has his own design language in this. The Sakshi is just kind of like a generic but just it's done really, really well. But being that there's so much of a price difference, it got me thinking, all right, so how is it the best EDC and $60 less? How does that factor in when they're both in 20 CV? The Sakshi's got liners, and it's carbon fiber, it's on bearings, you could reverse flick it, you could do all this stuff with it, right? And I'm like, how do I compare the two? On paper, or at least in my mind as I'm going through it, if I were looking objective points of view based on that, there's a lot of give and take, especially when you're talking different price ranges. So here is my new idea, and I have a couple floating around, but this one made the most sense. King of the Hill for the price. And then I'm going to have a pound for pound. It's going to be like a boxing weight class. We're going to dilute it just because. But I think in this case, diluting it brings something for everybody. And by that I mean, maybe I'll do a $0 to $50 knife, right? Maybe I'll do a 50 to 100, or maybe I'll do 100 to 150. Maybe I'll do 100 to 200. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do this yet. But I'm just kind of brainstorming out loud so you guys can kind of hear the ideas. So that was the one idea, and I think that's the one I'm leaning closer to than the others. I could always just do one, but it makes it more difficult to compare this to a Sebenza, right? How do you do that? You can, but is it that valuable? Because you're speaking to two different markets of people, and so what may work for somebody much better than somebody else may not be in their price range, and that doesn't make sense either. So I think what we're going to do is I'm either going to do the prices, or I'm going to do a brand. So we'll have a King of the Hill, we'll have a Benchmade, we'll have a Spyderco King of the Hill, And keep in mind, this is kind of relegated to the ones that I currently have and will obtain. I don't get too many Benchmades. I don't really get into Benchmade short of like specific ones. Spyderco, I mean, they don't really have anything new coming out, so that's kind of hard to declare. It's kind of like the Shaman or PM3, really. You know, I would love to say my smock. I enjoy the smock more than anything, but I acknowledge that's a preference, right? It's solely a preference. There's a reason that I carry my Launch 10 with me when I carry my smock, because I'm worried I'm going to break the tip off my freaking smock. So that's kind of where my brain's going. Do I do it by brand? Do I do it by price? I think price makes more sense. And then we'll have like a pound for pound, which right now, this is pound for pound, all-time greatest GOAT, right? You know, you do pound for pound, then you can equate value and stuff like that, but then we can also hit the other trees of, hey, for this price point, this is where you want to be. Like, this is the one. So give me your feedback on that. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm really excited to do this, and I was actually thinking about, I'm not going to do the same categories, I don't think, as I do in my comparison videos, because I don't know, I feel like if you're talking about the greatest, there's better comparison factors that we can go over. And again, I haven't come up with those other than, you know, what was the one that I came up with that I was sitting there thinking? There was one that I was sitting there thinking about that was attention to detail, right? Which I'm thinking about changing my fit and finish to attention to detail anyways. But attention to detail could be something as simple as like Corey pointed out on the Best Tech Swordfish. There's places where your fingers lie that you would never notice they're there unless you're looking for them, but you notice they're there in hand because it just feels that much better. Like, that's an attention to detail type of thing. So that's going to be one of the categories. You know, value is going to be a category, obviously, but you know, we'll talk about that. I think I'm going to eliminate fidget factor on the King of the Hill series and talk about ease of deployment, right? And maybe not. I mean, fidget factor is more for this, what I'm doing right here, right? That's fidget factor. Ease of deployment is I pull it out, I make a cut, and then we get it back in the pocket, which is fidget factor, but it's not too, you know? It's a little bit different. So there's slight tweaks to the comparison values that I'm going to change as well. I think that's really it. Because what actually prompted this is I was looking at my Benchmade bugout, and I'm like, you know, we talk about the Esprit, but you slap some titanium scales on this bad boy, and I got the 20 CV version, so it's going to be much better than the 30V, S30V. You know, I didn't want to, in my mind, compare two of my more beloved knives, and because I was also flirting with the idea that I kind of get rid of a lot of the stuff that's not a pound for pound king, and it's kind of like, you know, there's a direct cause and effect, but there's too much bias based in there too, because I don't want to get rid of some. Kind of a lame trats from the truck, but just an overall out of the box thought on the King of the Hill. Give me your guys' thoughts. If you'd rather just see one King of the Hill, I mean, that's another thing too. That makes it a much more special category, but at the same time, it actually ties your hands with a lot of things as well. It's hard to compare. I mean, because if you were doing a all-around, you know, all you need EDC, the best, you know, it's almost like, once again, we go back to the Rat, we go back to the Backlash, we go back to, you know, the Feldspar, you know, the Scoria, like stuff like that, and you find yourself under the $100 price point for the best, just basically because you're saying, okay, for this price, this is what we're getting, and that's why this is the best, and I just, that didn't really sit right with me, because the whole idea of the Esprit kind of being king and wowing us like that kind of goes out the window at that point. It's all on perspective and which perspective you take when you're looking at this stuff, right? That's a big difference too, is like, how are you approaching this? Are you approaching this from a user, enthusiast? I'm trying to encompass all. And when you encompass all, you obviously will leave some things out on the table that shouldn't be left. Again, kind of a boring one. Those of you that are interested in helping out with the King of the Hill series, let me know your comments below what you're thinking. If you have any thoughts that I didn't come up with, please feel free to share. What's the saying? 2 heads are better than 1. 3 heads are better than 1. 3 heads are better than 2. 4 better than 3, etc. That's all I got for you guys today. My name is Tyler. This is Everyday EDC. You guys stay sharp, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching. Oh, last thing. Those of you that stuck around to this point, I'm going to be releasing tomorrow's video early. Why? Because tomorrow is the 10th. The EMP EDC Nimble drop is tomorrow, and I have a comparison with a Nimble versus my Wee Knives Thug. I wanted to release the Wee Knives Thug review first, but as fate would have it, it wouldn't make much sense when the Nimble is coming out and dropping again tomorrow. So it'll give some people some eye candy, some people some, hey, I want to see the Nimble kind of, whatever the case is, right? So we're going to be dropping that early, so you won't see a video posted around, sometimes I post at 12 at night, sometimes I post at 8 in the morning for the day. It just depends on how I'm feeling at night. But you won't see it that late. I'm going to post it probably within the next, I want to post it so you guys can see it. So you'll probably see it by 6 o'clock or so, Central Time. That's all I got. Have a great day, guys.